Alright, we're going to get into it. Alexa, 10 minutes. Timer.
10 minutes, starting now.
So we're at purpose number 1. And yes, for those of you that can see this, sorry, I had a clothes basket. I've got to put the clothes away. I've actually got 2 more clothes baskets after I'm done, but we're going to do this. Purpose number 1, you were planned for God's pleasure, for God has planted them like strong and graceful oaks for his own glory. Isaiah 61:3 LB. Planned for God's pleasure. You created everything, and it is for your pleasure that they exist. You were created. Revelation 4:11 NLT. Yahweh takes pleasure in his people. Psalms 149 4a TEV. So Yahweh takes pleasure in his people. Psalms 149 4a TEV. You were planned for Yahweh's pleasure. The moment you were born into the world, Yahweh was there as an unseen witness, smiling at your birth. He wanted you alive, and your arrival gave him great pleasure. Yahweh did not need to create you, but he chose to create you for his own enjoyment. You exist for his benefit, his glory, his purpose, and his delight. Bringing enjoyment to Yahweh, living for his pleasure, is the first purpose of your life. When you fully understand this truth, you will never again have a problem with feeling insignificant. It proves your worth. If you are that important to Yahweh, and he considers you valuable enough to keep with him for eternity, what greater significance could you have? You are a child of Yahweh, and you bring pleasure to Yahweh like nothing else he has ever created. The Bible says, because of his love, Yahweh had already decided that through Yeshua the Messiah, he would make us his children. And this was his pleasure and purpose. One of the greatest gifts Yahweh has given you is the ability to enjoy pleasure. He wired you with five senses, emotions, so you can experience it. He wants you to enjoy life, not just endure it. The reason you are able to enjoy pleasure is that Yahweh made you in his image. We often forget that Yahweh has emotions too. He feels things very deeply. The Bible tells us that Yahweh grieves, gets jealous, and angry, and feels compassion, pity, sorrow, and sympathy, as well as happiness, gladness, and satisfaction. Yahweh loves, delights, gets pleasure, rejoices, enjoys, and even laughs. Bringing pleasure to Yahweh is called worship. The Bible says Yahweh is pleased only with those who worship him and trust his love. It does not tell me which verse. It gives me an indication. Anything that you do that brings pleasure to Yahweh is an act of worship. Like a diamond, worship is multi-faceted. Multi-faceted. Um, like a diamond, worship is multi-faceted. I hope I spelled that right. It would take volumes to cover all there is to understand about worship, but we will look at the primary aspects of worship for this section. Anthropo- Anthropologists have noted that worship is a universal urge, hardwired by Yahweh into the very fiber of our being. An inhabitant need, oh, an inbuilt need to connect with Yahweh. Worship is as natural as eating or breathing. If we fail to worship Yahweh, we always find a substitute, even if it ends up being ourselves. The reason Yahweh made us with this desire is that He desires worshipers. Yeshua said, "The Father seeks worshipers." Depending on your religious background, you may need to expand your understanding of worship. You may think of church services with singing, praying, and listening to a sermon. Or you may think of ceremonies, candles, and communication. Oh, or you may think of ceremonies, candles, and communion. Or you may think of healing, miracles, and ecstatic experiences. Worship can include these elements, but worship is far more than these